Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, is directed by DJ Caruso, who also directed Eagle Eye, Disturbia, and I Am Number 4, and is the reprisal role of Vin Diesel, who is the original Triple X, who is an extreme sports sort of super spy hybrid. This is the third installment of the Triple X franchise. The first one obviously starred Vin Diesel, the second starred Ice Cube, and now again Vin Diesel. Well, essentially what is happening in this movie is that Triple X, Vin Diesel's character, Xander Cage, has to be reintroduced sort of into the Triple X program and help find these group of people who are stealing what's called Pandora's Box, which is able to basically kidnap a satellite and drop it from the sky onto a certain target. So obviously that's very dangerous, and of course, who do you hire for that? Extreme sports enthusiast / super spy, Xander Cage. And of course, along the way, he has to enlist the help of his other extreme friends who also do ridiculous stunts, projects, whatever you really want to call it. DJing apparently is one of the things that people do and as part of his extreme people. Somebody who crashes into other cars and like starts fights randomly, like a sniper. There's a ton of different people he gets on his team that kind of don't make sense, but that's kind of what this movie is. Now, I knew going into this movie that it was not going to be some action-adventure thrill ride that was going to go over the top and really blow my mind. I didn't expect really a whole lot from this movie, especially from the trailers. Now, if you've seen the trailers, there are scenes where not only does Vin Diesel ski down a mountain with on rocks with his skis, but he skateboards down that same mountain with a skateboard and rides it off the side of a bus for some reason. And then to put the cherry on top in the previews, that they ride dirt bikes on water. Now, let me reiterate really quickly that while researching photos of trying to find Vin Diesel riding a dirt bike on water, apparently this is an actual thing where people ride dirt bikes on waves and water and stuff. I didn't even know this was a thing until this movie. I didn't realize that people actually tried to create this sport, if that's what you want to call it, but that's beside the point. But what I'm trying to get at is this movie is over the top ridiculous, that it's just so extreme to the point where it's so unbelievable. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just pure insanity. I think, however, if you are considering going to see this movie, that you should not go in with the expectations that this is going to be an action thriller that is going to be along the lines of a Jason Bourne or something more grounded in reality. No, this is going to be an over-the-top, G.I. Joe level ridiculous that it's so unbelievable and has the most ridiculous dialogue in one-liners. But at the same time, that's what kind of makes it so much fun. They don't really take themselves super seriously. There's a couple moments where they're yeah, we have to do this. We have to do this objective so we can stop the bad guys. But at the same time, they're doing things that are so ridiculous that it's hard to believe that these people would that this scenario would even be plausible in some form of reality. As for the performances, Vin Diesel is Vin Diesel. I mean, he's really not any other character in really any movie. He's just sort of himself. He's just sort of like that guy that every woman seems to throw themselves at for some reason, and he can just do anything, anytime. I mean, he's Vin Diesel. His stuntman, however, did a phenomenal job. That guy really went all out. I mean, he rode a motorcycle on water, skied down a mountain, rode a skateboard off of a bus, jumped out of a plane, all kinds of ridiculous things that probably Vin Diesel didn't do, but his stuntman sure did great. The best performance from the movie, though, did come from another action star, but just from a different part of the world, and that's Donnie Yen, who plays kind of the villain of this movie, the leader of the bad guys at least. But what he does, it made his scenes so entertaining, is that he actually does his fight scenes, and he actually knows what he's doing because that's his background, you guys. He actually came from doing martial arts movies, so he knows how to do those specific stunts. And that's what made it believable, because you know the guy can pull these things off. And it was great seeing him again, because I thought he was great in Rogue One, and now we're going to see him in this movie. He doesn't quite get the same amount of a great background for his character, but I mean, he still does a pretty decent job and was, again, the best performance of the entire film. The rest of the cast, however, was kind of okay. There weren't really any great surprises. Ruby Rose is also in this film. I mean, she kind of feels like she's starting to be everywhere. She's also going to be in John Wick Chapter 2. To be honest with you, I'm kind of getting overly like saturated with Ruby Rose being like the female badass of every single movie now. So I'm kind of getting done with Ruby Rose. Like it's not as interesting anymore. Toni Collette is also in this film. I felt like her character was very wasted. Like what they tried to do with it was a bit obvious, but when they got there, her acting just sort of took a dive. Like I don't know if it was the overacting because of the movie, because I know she does do a great job acting, but for some reason her character just didn't feel very entertaining whatsoever. Tony Jaa, another action star from across the world, was also in this film, and he again was completely wasted. There was no reason for him to be in this film. They could have cast any actor in his role, and it would have been the same exact role. When you get a guy like Tony Jaa who can do amazing stunt work, what's the point of having him if he's not going to do any stunts? He pretty much did nothing for the entire film other than kind of just have a blonde faux hawk for some reason. Also, there's other shameless like celebrities in this movie. Neymar, for some reason, the soccer star, is in this movie. Essentially does nothing again. Tony Gonzalez, a former NFL tight end, also in this movie. He's supposed to be like a soldier badass type, but he really comes across as flat and uninteresting, and I didn't give a crap the entire time he was on screen. Samuel L. Jackson gets a bit of a small role. I mean, he's sort of the man who created the XXX program, so he's in it, but he's just not in it enough. What they did with the story was not interesting and related to him, and he was in it so little. At one point, I kind of forgot, other than when they referenced to his character, that he was even a part of this franchise. And the final character that I want to talk about is kind of a spoiler alert, but not really, because he shows up in several promotional like commercials and trailers, and that is Darius Stone, the other XXX, who's played by Ice Cube. And I was psyched to see him, considering that I actually was probably one of the few that did like XXX State of the Union. He was much more preferable to me than Vin Diesel's original XXX. But when he does come on screen, his dialogue is very, very choppy. Like it doesn't feel like it comes across as the character that he was before. Even though Ice Cube is definitely a badass, it didn't really feel like his character felt very shoehorned in. And then there's a scene towards the end with Vin Diesel and with Ice Cube, but their dialogue is so bad that I completely forgot that. I mean, when you have these two heavyweight sort of actors, Vin Diesel and Ice Cube, who's megastars on both sides, music and acting, and both kind of with Ice Cube, but when you have those two badasses together on screen and the scene that they share is complete garbage, that's just not very entertaining. Again, a lot of this stuff, I mean, it's entertaining in the sense of a mindless action film, but at the same time, it's just not entertaining as far as like dialogue, and just it doesn't make any sense. And it's very frustrating when you have these big names attached to something that just sucks. The biggest sin of this film, however, doesn't even come with the over-the-top action or ridiculous dialogue. When it does come in, is I feel like it suffers from the same syndrome that Indiana Jones 4 and Die Hard 5 suffered from, and that's that the character feels unkillable and unbeatable. At no point do you feel like Xander Cage is actually in peril or in trouble for whatever reason. You always know that he's going to either talk himself out of it, shoot himself out of it, or fight himself out of whatever ridiculous situation he happens to find himself in. At no point was I concerned that our main hero had any sort of trouble with whatever situation he was in. And that really didn't feel like it was a good movie to me. When you have to be able to connect to your main hero, and when you can't even do that, it just feels like a mindless action film. And I think that's kind of what they were going for. I think that Vin Diesel may have been forced into this movie, like contract-wise, because of having to do like Fast and Furious and maybe some other passion projects of his. Maybe this was one of them. I'm not entirely sure. But the same attention to detail and love for these characters was nowhere to be found in the entire runtime of this movie, which even that was a little bit long. There were scenes that I felt could have been cut easily, and this would have been the same mindless action film that it was from minute one. And with that, the grade that I'm going to give XXX, The Return of Xander Cage, is a D+. This film is over the top. Absolutely, from beginning to end, it's absolute ridiculousness. There's no point in which you believe this could be a real-life situation that these characters are going through. Not to say that the XXX movies are grounded completely in reality, but this one takes it to a step that is just on another level that you can't even begin to believe is plausible. But I do think that it is worth watching if it's like late at night and you don't have anything to do, that you just want to watch some mindless action movie, you don't really have to put a whole lot of thought into, you're tired, you don't really want to put on anything that you have to pay a lot of attention to or have like a real investment in, this is that movie. This is the movie you're going to play if you're awake at 12, 2 a.m., whatever, and you just don't want to watch the same episode of whatever, or you don't want to pay attention to your favorite show. You put in this mindless action movie and you have a good time. That's really what this film feels like. It feels like they put no effort into a lot of it. It's a great premise. You have great actors. You have Vin Diesel, who's a pretty decent action star. You have a lot of other action stars and stunt teams that could do amazing work, but for some reason it's just wasted potential in this movie, and it's unfortunate, but it does make a good movie for just like a rainy day or like that mindless 2 a.m. snacking binge that you just happen to be on. But other than that, you don't have to rush out and see XXX Return of Xander Cage. There's really no point. It's just another movie that's out there in January that was just sort of shoehorned. Doesn't matter. We're hoping to make some money out of it, and that's it. And with that, guys, that is my review of XXX, The Return of Xander Cage. If you have seen it, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Also, let me know what your favorite sort of mindless action film is, or what like action film you like that has either a great sequel already or you think deserves a sequel, even if it's just something dumb and like adding to the franchise. It doesn't really add any weight to it. It's just something that needs to be in existence just because you like it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can see future videos as well as videos that I posted previously, such as my Sherlock reviews, my Power Rangers trailer review, all that good stuff. You can be found on my channel. And this next section that you'll see with my logo, be sure to hit that to subscribe. Guys, thank you so much for watching. You really are the best. And I'll see you in the next one.